It's a bit strange to use a microphone when we're sitting like this close to each other, but I will. Um, oh, I don't see anybody having headphones. So is it okay if I speak in English? Yeah? Okay, perfect. So I'll be speaking in English, and then if you have any questions or when you wish to say something, please just, grab a mic and then I'll have the interpretation. Okay, I'll be using a microphone, but I sometimes speak very loudly, so in case I start shouting at you, please signal it to me, okay? Please have a seat. Please have a seat. And those of you there in the back, please have a seat. This is going to be a dialogue, so we want everybody's active participation. Okay, so first, just to get a show of hands, how many of you have done a dialogue before? That you participated in a dialogue? Very good, very good. I'm waving hands. Okay, perfect. Please have a seat. Okay. So I will be presenting you some materials that we've created in a project that's focusing only on dialogue in Europe. And we created this project because we have this fear that in the world today that is so fast and everybody is so busy that we don't talk to each other anymore so much. And one of the main elements of this dialogue that we want to have, and we're having them right now in several countries, is we want to have intergenerational dialogue. We also think it's a bit of a problem if, adults are speaking behind closed doors to other adults, and then young people can only talk to other young people, but then there's nobody talking to each other. So in that sense, we're trying to kind of spread this dialogue conversation. I would like to invite you, if you wish, to come sit with us. We will be talking together, all of us, so you're more than welcome to join. And Noah, I would like to ask you, this is my colleague Noah from Croatia. He can say hi to everybody. Noah, could I possibly ask you that as people are coming in, that you tell them that they can come and sit in the circle and we can get some extra chairs? Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So if it's okay, we'll be using this little toy as a way to signal who is speaking next. And the toy is soft, so even if it hits you in the head, you should be fine. Okay, so we always use soft toys so that nobody gets hurt. And if that's okay, just as a warming up, before we even decide what we're going to talk about together, I would like to ask a couple of you to volunteer to tell me what is a topic currently in Qatar or in your country, if you're from another country, that you find very important that people are not talking about a lot today. So I'll kind of start off with a warm-up. I will ask Nala to share, and then you can just throw the ball to somebody else. I want to hear a little bit from you. What is a topic you think is very important but people are not talking about a lot?
Okay, hi everyone. So I'm Nahla and I'm from Lebanon. So there are lots of topics that people aren't really talking about in Lebanon. But I think if I want to choose one of the topics, it would be basically the importance of changing the way that we do our elections in terms of how they are done, in terms of how Lebanon is basically split into certain places and you can only vote in this place and so on. So that's basically one of the topics.
All right, perfect. You will get the ball and the microphone. But we can't throw microphone to people.
I'll do it next. Hi, my name is Nof. I'm from Qatar. And I feel like a sensitive topic that isn't talked often about because the situation in Qatar is already so good, and I'm not denying that. But I feel like equality, gender equality is not addressed and it's not tackled enough. Yes, women have rights. Men also have like amazing rights. He just went away. But like, I feel like we should talk more. Like the situation in Qatar could be so much better for women, different women. I'm not just talking about Qatari women, but people just shy away from this topic. So I wish we can talk about it more often. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, no, pass it on.
Okay, I will speak in Arabic. It will be easy to me. مرحبا، اسمي سهيلة، أنا جاي من سوريا. بالنسبة لنا أظن أنه تجربة الحوار بحد ذاتها مش موجودة بالداخل السوري، وخاصة بعد التحرير، فهي تجربة كتير يعني كتير جديدة. فمن أكثر الشغلات اللي لافتتني بقطر، لأنه هي ما هي أول مرة أنا بتواجد فيها، هي فكرة كيف بتتم عمليات الحوار أو كيف الأنشطة اللي هي متعلقة في الحوار اللي بتصير. فنحن جايين نشوف شو الأدوات اللي ممكن نستخدمها لنساوي حوارات أكثر. أعتقد إنه المواضيع اللي كتير شائكة هلا عنا هي الهوية، المواضيع الحرية، حدودها وغيرها. فنحن لسه كتير عم نحكي بمواضيع جديدة ما كنا قدرانين نحكي فيها خلال ال 54 سنة الماضية.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, absolutely. Come on in. You as well, please, sir. Yeah. Please come on in. Come on in and have a seat. Grab a chair. We'll make the circle a bit bigger. Okay, who is next? Yes.
Me. Hello, I am Mazun. Oh, it's so loud. Okay, so I would like to talk about something really different than this, which is we look all similar right now, especially in this very comfortable community. Alhamdulillah, we are in Qatar, which is a very safe and we are used to be like in a safe zone or a comfort zone, as they say. So everyone is so afraid from being different than the other. We just want to be similar. We just want to act the same. I think also we have the fear of being different. Now, if any woman or even a man in the circle want to do something different, we're something different, which we are restricted by limitations of religion, us as Muslims. I'm speaking with these allowed space. So we should accept the fact that we are different than each other. We should not be the same, and we should do what we find it really like in a good way different. So once I just met a girl. She like suffered from cancer, and she wanted people to talk about this journey because she did not, and she like said it loudly that I didn't find anyone who talked or who mentioned that before this journey, and I'm like really afraid to do this. Like, how would people accept that? I told her that we need you and we need everyone who's like you to like do something different, which is a good thing. So why we are afraid of doing that? We should accept this. We should do this, and we should like encourage doing that. So that's my point.
Thank you so much. Have somebody else? So for those of you who walked in, the question that some people are choosing to answer is, what is a topic that you find very important in the country that you're in your society, that you think is not talked about enough? So this is the question that some people are answering.
Hey everyone, I admit that this circle and this toy reminds me of like AA meetings. I've seen them only in movies and TV shows, but
I don't know if there was a toy.
So I completely agree with all of my colleagues, and I'm honestly glad that others view Qatar as a free space for dialogue. But my problem is with dialogue or debating is there is no actions taken after we debate or after we share our views and opinions. We're not reaching an agreement on an action. And to give an example, everyone agrees that the conflict in Gaza or conflicts in general in war zones needs to be addressed and solutions need to be made. However, I believe that there is a huge gap between the decision makers and the public. The public are posting, retweeting, but there is no advocacy groups. There is no straight channels to decision makers to pressure governments into taking serious actions, for example, to stop the war in Gaza, or at least to demand a humanitarian solution. That's it.
Thank you.
I will be speaking in Arabic if it's okay. Okay. اسمي منيرة العذبي. طبعا النقطة اللي تكلمت فيها أختي يعني نورة هي نقطة أنا بتكلم عنها كذلك مشابهة، ولكن من الناحية الأكاديمية. نحن نجد أن في أكاديميين ودكاترة وباحثين يقومون بكتابة أوراق بحثية ويقومون بنشرها عن مواضيع اجتماعية سياسية يعني في المجتمعات، ويحاولون أن يوصلونها لأصحاب القرار، ولكن لا نجد بأن هنالك مثل ما يقول حلقة وصل بين هؤلاء الأكاديميين والباحثين وبين أصحاب القرار. حتى في المواضيع البسيطة جدا، مثلا عن مواضيع اجتماعية، مثلا باحث يتكلم عن مواضيع اجتماعية يجد لها حلول، ولكن أصحاب القرار ما يقومون يعني بالقيام بهذه الأعمال. فتجد بأن هذه الأبحاث الأكاديمية فقط موجودة في الجامعات ومراكز البحثية فقط، بدون ما تنشر يعني للمجتمع ويتم العمل بها حقيقة. وشكرا.
Thank you. شكرا.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Latifa Saif and I'm from the Kingdom of Bahrain. I would say the issue that most people does not tackle or does not debate on is women facing racism in a very, I would say, high roles. For example, women who are in a parliament, or especially women who are lawyers. I personally have faced an racism in international competition, and it was an arbitration competition for commercial law. And to consider the fact that it was a law competition and it was an international competition, and I faced an racism because I was a woman and I am a Muslim and I'm from a GCC country. So this issue is a very critical issue, and I've never heard or I've never seen people who have tackled this issue. So it's really important to educate people that it does not matter the person the front of you, if there were a woman or a man, it does not matter the background of that person. What matters is their knowledge. What matters is why they are in front of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so what I wanted to see is what is the appetite, what is the interest in some of the topics that we should talk about, because we will choose one topic to talk about. Now, the material that I will present to you, and you can all get the website and you can download some of these materials later on, but it's really kind of funny because the material actually covers many of the topics you identified. So, funnily enough, with Nahla, we started with the topic of elections that she mentioned. You talked about Qatar and the diversity that we have in Qatar that we should talk about. There is a topic that I'm just looking for right now that we have mentioned, and the topic that has been mentioned by a couple of people is gender equality. Okay? Many of these topics and the way that we have identified them, there is a topic on war, there is a topic on conflict, there is a topic on migration as well. And all of these topics we identified because these are the topics in Europe as well that people are not talking about, or that when they do talk about it, the only thing they can do is divide in sides and then shout at each other, right? So in that sense, all of these topics are really quite divisive in Europe as well. Now, I'm feeling that there might be an interest in this topic because a couple of you mentioned it. So if that's okay, we can proceed with gender equality because it's a very broad topic and it concerns some of these issues that were mentioned earlier as well. My goal for this session as we go into a dialogue together is that all of you are inspired when you go back home, when you go back to your work, to your students, that you maybe take some of these topics and you discuss them with the groups that you are in, right? And why is this my goal? Because I think that we don't talk enough. But I would like to address the points, the very important points that came now from the two of you about the gap between the regular people and the decision makers, the gap between the scholars, you know, who do analysis, who do research, and then people who are supposed to implement it. I wish I had a flip chart. This is the professor in me getting into mode, but there is something in human nature, there is something in our mind that makes us focus a lot on the things that we don't have control over. Right, so let's just imagine I do have a flip chart. Okay, imagine a blank paper in front of you, and there is one circle. I'm going to now ask you the following question. What is something that you have absolute control over? What is something you control? Very good. Your body, your actions. Sleep schedule, brilliant. Thoughts, yes. So that's very good. The things we have control over is us. And even that we sometimes struggle, right? So that's the things we have control over. This is the inner circle. Now, I'm going to draw a bigger circle around it. This is the things that we influence. It's a circle of influence. What do you influence? Friends, family, brilliant. Environment, yes, to a certain extent. Neighbors, community, very good. This is our circle of influence. And now I'm going to draw an even bigger circle. So we have control, influence, and the very big circle is called the circle of concern. What are the things that we're worried about? Jobs, future, elections, environment, situation in countries that has raging conflicts that nobody seems to be doing anything about. These are the big, big questions and issues, right? Human brain, our mind, has a tendency to focus on things that we ourselves individually have very little control over. Bless you. However, the tricky thing is that we, in this focus on the things that we don't have control over, we lose sight of the things that we have influence over. So in that sense, I would like us to focus on the things we can influence. And this is a little bit what we will be talking about today. So as we have selected this topic, I will just guide us through it a little bit. So the first question that I will ask you, and we can again do the same thing. We will use the ball, we will share the microphone, and we will just share what comes to our mind. So the first question is, what comes to your mind when you think about gender equality? Just give me an idea that comes to your mind. You don't need to define it, just an image in your mind.
When it comes to gender equality, to me, it's the concept itself. I feel like it's just people didn't think enough before putting the concept because it's not about equality, it's about justice. Okay. Because equality doesn't always mean justice, but justice is more the generic and the fair concept to be put in such a generalized situation.
Very good. So it's more about justice. Yeah, absolutely. So I think we can quit on the ball because we're anyway passing the microphone. Yes. Just don't throw the microphone at anybody, okay? Let's just keep it civil.
There's something that I want to mention before. Mm-hmm. I used to be in debate.
Very
and
good.
We used to do something called تعريف نص القضية, which is defining the main topic or the point. I feel that we should also mention our religion and our culture into that point. Mm-hmm. I am, a lot of people can consider me as a feminist or whatever they say as it's a bad thing or whatever it is. But also I'm Muslim and I'm very proud of being that. And I follow my religion as it is. So now we should not really forget about the fact that the man is the only provider, how we see it and how we follow it. So in that point, I'm educated. I have a bachelor's degree and I'm looking for a job and I'm training in different places. So I'm doing that as well. No one has restricted me or whatever happened. Sometimes I see a lot of inequalities because you're a woman, what will happen? But at the same time, we should mention that as well. We are not providers. That's why there's something that affect this regulations or what happened in this culture or in this environment. So I think we should really mention that as well. We should take it into consideration before like talking about anything. I really believe as well. So don't get it in the wrong way. I participated in a women equality like a campaign. I've talked about it, and it's published on like community called the Builders Tribe. So I've talked about this topic before. So of course, I'm not against women, but at the same time, I should clarify that what we see it in our culture and our religion, and continue on that as well.
But if I'll just kind of press you a little bit. Close your eyes.
Okay.
I say gender equality. What's the first thing that comes to your mind? Just give me the image. Just one word or two words.
Like equal opportunities.
Equal opportunities. Very good.
Yes.
Thank you. I like that she raised this element about the definition and about how we define it, because I think when you engage in dialogue, you realize that that's part of the problem with miscommunication and misunderstandings, that we don't have the same definitions of things. You know, so in that sense, I think it's important that we talk about it. And this is why I'm inviting you, when you hear the words gender equality, what's the first thing that comes in your mind? Just give me the image that comes in your mind.
Yeah,
Yes.
Just last thing, I'm sorry that I took a lot of time to talk, but normally I'm really engaged in public speaking and talking with people. So I really wanted to define the topic before starting it, so no one thinks that I am like against the opportunities, because I'm one of the people who are like defending women.
Yeah,
in this,
not a problem.
field.
But see, this is another thing where those of you who are debaters, I'm also a former debater. One of the things that we do in debate is that we sometimes define things, but if I define it, that doesn't mean that this is Tasneem's definition.
Yes.
So just because I define it doesn't mean that you're sharing my definition. So this is why in dialogue we listen to each other and we try to see how different people define things. And thank you so much. Yes.
The first thing in just 2 words, break down stereotypes.
Very good. Breaking down stereotypes. Yes.
I feel like the biggest issue with dialogue, and thank you for sharing your input because it just made it so clear, is that people just sometimes, and I have a big issue with this, because people sometimes just, and I don't mean it personally, just like a general idea, people hide behind culture, religion, in order to shy away from the topic itself. When we talk about equality, we're not contradicting religion. Because if we even go all the way back, women participated in war back way like thousands of years ago. So when we talk about equality, women today provide. Women today go to work. Women today have to raise their kids, and they have to wake up in the morning, and they have to do all sorts of things. So we can't just come and say men are the providers, this is what the religions say, because it doesn't. It doesn't. So in order to have a successful dialogue, we have to just address things as they are. We can't just hide behind culture or religion. Thank you.
And this is one of the things that I will be doing as kind of the one facilitating this dialogue. Because very often, the things that guide our opinions and thoughts, they are assumptions, right? And one of the assumptions that you just exhibited is that if I'm not talking about something, or if I'm holding back, that maybe it's my culture or maybe my religion kind of influencing me. But sometimes it might not be the case, right? So in that sense, I think it's important that we try to kind of invite everybody to share, and then we see kind of what's happening. Because at the end of the day, all of us, every single one of us, is very much influenced by the following things. The society you grew up in, the family that you had, the life experiences that you had, what you studied, for example, who are your friends. Our identities are so multidimensional. So I think it's sometimes, I think that you heard the first question was, what are some things that we don't talk about? In different societies, different topics. But I think that in society, the thing that influences what we don't talk about are the things, it's not just religion, it's not just culture. I think it's more complex when we don't talk about something. So yeah, I'm just kind of trying to get into, together imagine that we're like digging a little bit. So this is what we're doing right now. Okay, so who would like to share a bit? When you hear gender equality, what comes to your mind? Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, so just one point to add to that, to what my colleague said, it's also about the first word that comes to mind is also chaos and lack of awareness. Because when you see like the concept of feminism, when you see the concept of gender equality, the SDGs, it's always about like someone who's just hopping off into something that doesn't know the meaning of that, like you don't really know how you relate to that, you don't know the background of it, the history. So it's always about lack of awareness that creates chaos, and also manipulate the concept itself when we put it in like a goodwill, and suddenly it's just something that we're trying to force and something that we don't really understand, which also relates into how we're asking for our rights, and also how the society are seeing this concept from men's point of view. So they always see it like as silly, as like something you shouldn't be doing, as something like that is really deeply misunderstood. And it's also wrong on like the both ends, the women and men, because like of the lack of awareness and lack of the understanding of the concepts itself.
And this is a really good intro to my next question. Why do you think, and then again, with everything, you just raise your hand, the microphone will come to you. Why do you think there is such chaos? Why do you think there is misunderstanding? Why is the concept maybe sometimes causing conflict? Or even why is sometimes this idea of equality kind of contentious, right? Because it seems kind of not.
I believe, to answer your question, is that the definition of gender equality differs from region to region. I believe that in each region or in each group of society, the customs, traditions, and ethicals and morals affect the way that we think. Moreover, for example, there is a lot of countries who had ratified the CEDAW Convention. But did they really worked and implied on the CEDAW conventions when it comes to women's rights? Well, we never know. So because of the chaotic thing in a region or a country, is that we do have laws, but no one is implementing the laws.
Why?
Why? I don't want to dig deep in it, but
No,
I
just
guess
your interpretation.
my interpretation in that, I would say, because there's, and I would say it in Arabic, because I don't know how to, the right term in English is, there is no raqaba. So
Accountability.
there is a law, there is a convention, and they have ratified this convention, but there is no raqaba on that certification process or the implementation process.
Thank you.
I know that this might seem controversial, but I think we have to address this. When we talk about inequality, gender inequality, we don't really, or we tend to shy away of discussing our culture. Unfortunately, gender inequality is something that is deeply embedded with our Oriental culture. And I know that this might seem, I know that a lot of people usually get to shy away of this, but if we don't really address this, we are not really going to do anything. It's not going to be, we're not going to achieve anything. Our culture, I know that this might seem, I know that I am seeing your faces already, so I hope no one is, before anyone is judging. Let's talk about some interesting things about our culture, our Arabic culture. Is anyone familiar with the word جريمة شرف? A crime of honor. Let's just dissect something as as how do we منتشر, well, yeah, as common as crime honors in our world. Crime honors is something that is not related to Islam. It's not related to any religion. Yet our law is much easier on people who commit these crimes. And these crimes are mainly only are only against women. The same thing goes with جرائم الرفض. When a woman decides not to go in a relationship with a man, unfortunately, her faith is death, or is
being harmed by that man. We have many crimes that are unfortunately mostly affected by women, whether it's sexual assault, whether it's honor crimes, or again جرائم الرفض. Yet we don't really discuss these enough. We don't really, and the worst part about it is they're usually excused by our institutions and governors. So. Mm-hmm.
So I cannot comment on your culture because it is not my culture. But I can tell you where I was 4 days ago before I came here. So I was in Kosovo, in one country in Europe, and I was working with a group of women. Kosovo had a war, so there is still some divided communities there. And I was working with two groups of women, one group of women from Albanian community and one group of women from Serbian community. So two communities that were in war. And I was working with these women together because they were trying to address the topic of domestic violence. And I understand if you might think that it is something special about your culture that ignores some of these topics, or that sometimes puts a man in a favorable position. But I can tell you in Europe, we have those exact same experiences. You call it honor crime? Yes. In Montenegro, they have the exact same honor system, and it's also codified in the law. So in that sense, I wish that there was something, that this is something unique that you're talking about, but unfortunately I've seen it in many other places in the world. And one of the things that we all share in common is that we have a hard time talking about it, And I always wonder why, because this is something at the end of the day that affects everybody. Every single one of us had a mother, right? Many of us have sisters, So in that sense, I really wonder how come we don't end up talking about it. Hey, at the end of the day, also men, we need to talk about men. For me, this here topic stands for everybody. And one of the things that is quite interesting nowadays in the West, that they are finally, I think, raising alarm bells on, is that there was a lot of focus on gender equality, but mostly on women's rights. And now what they are looking into is that boys are falling behind. There is statistical difference in how many boys enroll in institutions of higher education. Boys are struggling with finding jobs, And there is the moment you try to have a men's rights kind of organization, they look at you as though you are women haters. Right? And some of them might be, but that's not the point. The point is that if we put any group in a situation where we're mostly saying that they're the ones at a disadvantage, what we seem to fail is to look at the bigger picture, And my question now to all of you is, why is it hard to talk about some things that are maybe related to culture or that are maybe related to family?
So basically, maybe to narrow it down into two concepts, basically education and media. So when it comes to the connecting loops between family, your childhood, your adulthood, and also your environment, the things you get impacted by and you impact as well, we're talking about the education system since you were a kid, and then you're a secondary school, and then your high school, and then your university life, and then at the same time we're talking about media. Media, I'm not only talking about news channels, I'm really talking about cartoons, I'm talking about all the things that is put live on TVs, on iPads, on phones, social media, anything that we can be influenced by. So when we come to these things, I can and I'm 100% sure we can all relate. So basically when it comes to our educational system, we see a lot of things that are put in a way that is you're just raised by, and then when you come around and when you're an adult and have your own thoughts, you think about it on your own, and you think that was wrong, that should have been different, but at the same time you can't say anything about it, you can't do anything about it. Why? Because it was there. All of us were taught in the same way, and at the same time media enhanced that, because the same things that we were taught, we were also hearing day by day and day and night, and hearing it the same things. So when it comes to the opposite opinion or the opposite thought, you can't just throw it because everything is just flowing, and you can't be against that because it's too much effort, it's too much energy, it's like too much also negotiation and arguments, and also the societal look on with the different thoughts as well. And also even when you talked about men's rights, it's as simple as when it comes to having a newborn. So females takes around 90 days of like just bonding with their kids, but when it comes to the dads, they don't have any. But the kid actually needs both. So that's the simplest like example that we can put. So it's always about media and education, in my opinion, which loops like about the governments, because the government is the one who agrees on the channels, agrees on the news, and at the same time the government is the one to put the curriculums. So I see I don't want to put the blame on anyone, but the government holds the biggest share, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I will always say that you're the one who turns on the channel. You know, so in that sense, we have to have some responsibility over what we see. I would like to hear from some people who haven't shared yet. Why are some of these topics difficult to talk about? Anyone? Some of the people we haven't heard about.
أنا أعتقد صراحة يعني عدم التطرق لهذه المواضيع ممكن يكون بسبب إحنا بمجتمع محافظ، مجتمع الخليج، فممكن يكون عدم التطرق لهذه المواضيع خوفا من أدوار المساواة ممكن تتضمن شيء لا يتوافق مع الشريعة الإسلامية، مثل إسقاط القوامة أو الميراث، فيكون التخوف والمقاومة بسبب أن المساواة ممكن تتضمن أدوار ما تتوافق مع الشريعة.
Oh yeah, go, Tasneem.
I was just going to say I agree with a lot of the things that he said. I think that a lot of times there's a fear that is created, and the fear creates sort of a chill factor within the society. So even though a lot of people might have ideas and they want to have these discussions, they're worried about whether if they speak out about these things, how society would perceive them, how their family would perceive them, and whether they really are or aren't going against the general accepted principles within society. But then my question also becomes, what is that generally accepted perception of society? Like, if we're all scared to talk about it, does that mean that all of us do have the same specific thoughts, or do we have varying thoughts? And I feel that it's usually because people in positions of power who are benefiting from the way that society is currently being run don't want to be challenged, and they become very defensive. So the moment that anyone tries to change the discourse, there's immediate attack on that individual, and there's an immediate shame that is associated. That's why people don't want to say they're feminists, or don't want to say that they support women's rights, or else they're automatically going to be tagged or labeled as individuals who are going against their culture or their communities, or who are being, and I think this is something that I find particularly problematic, is that the idea of gender equality is being perceived as a Western concept that is being forced upon you. Why are you trying to implement something that's not yours, which makes it seem as though gender equality is not naturally ours to begin with. So I think that those are all issues that are prevalent there.
يعني يمكن حكت أكثر من بأكثر من شكل، وهي فكرة الخوف. أنا بربط الخوف بعدم المعرفة، وعدم المعرفة هو نحن لما بيكون في عنا نقص وعي. نقص الوعي والمعرفة بشوفها بتجي بأنه نحن ما بنواكب تطور المجتمعات عن طريق الأفكار، وبالتالي نحن بس بنقول انه في فكرة ثابتة، المجتمع في تطور او في تسارع تطور يعني بشكل كبير، نحن ما بنطور الافكار بحيث يجيب على تساؤلات المجتمع، وبالتالي بشكل نقص وعي ومعرفة، وبالتالي بشكل خوف، وبالتالي نحن ما بنناقش المواضيع.
I will speak in Arabic. بعتقد انه هو في عنا ضغط اقران كتير كبير بالمجتمعات اللي عنا، فانا دائما بنحس انه في عنا مثل سياسه الى حد ما، انه سياسه فينا نقول بما انه هي شيء الافكار هي متاصله بالمجتمع تبعنا، فالاغلبيه من المجتمع هي عندها الافكار اللي تطهي الافكار، فنحن مقتنعين، نحن ما عندنا ثقافه انه نحس انه ممكن يكون في كذا شغله صح، نحن بنحس يعني يا هي صح يا هي صح، يعني اذا هي صح هي غلط، فدائما بنحس بأن الأغلبية عم يفكروا هيك فنحن غلط، فدائما كل ما نفكرنا، كل ما خطرت لنا هي الفكره، كل ما اجت على ذهننا هي الفكره، حنحس انه احنا غلط ونحن عكس المجتمع، نحن عكس الاغلبيه. فانا ححاول ادفن هي الفكره، يعني انا ححاول اكبت هي الفكره بشكل متكرر جواتي، لانه انا خايف انا اكون غلط، لان انا خايف اذا طلعت وعبرت هي الفكره، اول شيء انا حشوف حالي غلط. اذا رحت حاولت اصارح في المجتمع حيحسسني انه انا عامل شغله كتير كبيره، شغله كتير خطا، ليش انا عم فكر هيك؟ او حتى الاهل حتى حيضغطوا علي. فانا اذا ما صرحت عن هي الفكره حكون علق بدوامه انه انا عم اكبت هي الفكره جواتي، بس كمان بنفس الوقت اذا صرحت حصير انه يا ريت ما حكيت، يا ريت ما صار كل هذا الشيء، وحضل ندمان وحيضل حتتغير النظره اللي حواليه. فبحاول ريح حالي انه انا انسى الفكره بالمره، وان شاء الله ما ترجع لي هي الفكره، لانه اذا رجعت لي حارجع ادخل بدوامه اكتئاب مره جديد.
I'm gonna speak in Arabic too. بعتقد احنا عندنا كمان مشكلة تانية، انه احنا كتير متعصبين للأفكار تبعتنا وللثقافة تبعتنا. يعني مثلا بمجرد ما تسمع، وهي رد لإلك كمان، بمجرد ما تسمع حدا يعني بيحكي عن إشي زي الإصلاح المجتمعي أو الإصلاح الديني أو الإصلاح بالمؤسسات السياسية، على طول بيجينا نوعا من التخوف، لأنه إحنا عنا ثقافات وعنا أفكار معينة ما بنحب إن نتطرق فيه، ما بنحب إن نتطرق لإلها، أو ما بنحب نحاول حتى نعطيها كريتيكس، لأنه بالنسبة لنا إنه لا، هاي الأفكار جزء من عقيدتنا، فإحنا لازم نكون متمسكين فيها. فكرة الهيراركي هاي، إنه الرجل هو أساس المجتمع وتحته بتيجي المرأة، وإنه المرأة مثلا ما بحق لها إنها تركز على الكارير تبعها وعلى وظيفتها، ولازم تهتم أكتر بالعيلة وتنسى هذا الجزء من حياتها. نوعا ما جزء من ثقافتنا إحنا. بمجرد ما حدا يطلع ويعمل كريتيك انه لا بالعكس، المرأة زي ما هي وظيفتها مش مجرد بس انها تهتم بالعيلة، وهي اساسا مفروض انه إلها كيانها الخاص، وبحق لها انها تشتغل على نفسها وتشتغل على حالها ويكون عندها كاريرها الخاص فيها، سيبريت من العائلة او من الزوج او من اي اشي تاني. بمجرد ما نسمع هاي الفكرة، اول اشي بخطر على بالنا انه لحظة، يعني هل احنا مثلا ضد فكرة الرجال قوامون على النساء؟ شو دخل هذا بهاد؟ يعني بمجرد ما انه المرأة تصير عندها كارير ببطل الرجال له قوامة على المرأة مثلا. فبحس احنا اذا كنا موضوعيين اكتر، واذا كنا منفتحين اكتر للكريتيكس، وبطل عنا هذا التعصب لثقافتنا. وانا يعني بدي احكي هذا الاشي لاني انا ذكرت هذا الموضوع بمداخلتي الاولى. I'm sorry for being late. انه احنا في عنا مشاكل كتير كبيرة بثقافتنا ما بنحب ان نتطرق لإلها، لانه بالنسبة لنا ثقافتنا موضوع اشي حساس. وانا بعتقد اذا تخلصنا من هاي الحساسية حيكون عن جد في مساحة كتير كبيرة للإمبروفمنت اللي بس هاي الحساسية وهذا التعصب مسببها. thank you.
No problem, but before I give you the floor, I have a little advice for you. And I do work in the field of conflict transformation, and I work in the field of depolarization. How do you talk to people about things that you don't agree with, right? How do you actually get into a conversation? And on the basis of what you said, this is a really interesting but incredibly powerful principle. If I criticize you, you're going to get defensive. You're going to immediately build a wall around you, because this is your ego and this is your mind protecting you from me attacking you. However, if I am talking to you and then I tell you, I have a problem, there is something I don't like about myself, I'm going to get self-critical and critically self-reflective. This increases the chance that maybe you will be comfortable to look at yourself in the mirror. And this is an interesting thing, what happens when we criticize culture and when we criticize these big systems. Remember, everything in the circle of concern. What happens is that we encourage resistance. We encourage pushback. Like, imagine when you're a child and your parents are telling you, you should do this or you should do that. Do you know what children do?
Tantrum.
Like, they don't want to hear it, right? They don't want to hear this authority. They don't want to hear like somebody telling them that they made a mistake. This is very similar in society when we criticize each other. So this is why sometimes in some of these big topics that we're talking about, I think that one of the key kind of tools that we can use is critical self-reflection. And in this sense, maybe it's a question of women saying that, I mean, what I'm hearing also a little bit is that you're experiencing the exact same things that women in the West have experienced, which is, now I not only have to take care of children and the home and the husband and the family, now I have to go out there and work. And I have to be successful. And I have to do all of these other things, right? And it's crazy. It's hard. You know, so maybe it's time that we look at ourselves a little bit and say how, like, we're not feeling good. So it's not a question of, so it's not a question of, you know, me being angry at my husband, you know. It's a question of me saying, I need help. I'm struggling. You know, it completely changes the tone of the conversation. You know, and unfortunately, one of the things that I do think that we are kind of currently suffering from everywhere in the world, also from media, is that we learn how to talk to each other by attacking each other. So everything that's bad in my life, it's your fault. You know, I never look at my own self and my own kind of, you know, circle of control. So we always have a tendency to assign and lay blame somewhere else. And I think that this is something that maybe we can try to kind of reconsider. But please, you have a microphone.
First of all, I want to circle back to the idea of the fear of gender equality due to the fact that it might contradict the Sharia laws. And I believe that this is deeply rooted in the idea that gender equality is a Western term. It didn't used to be a topic or an issue here in, let's say, culture-oriented societies or religious conservative societies. And the idea of us viewing gender equality as a Western thing that is based on individuality. In religious and culture-oriented societies, the families are extended. And women, I'm not gonna say supposed to play the role of a traditional wife or a mother. It's the fact that we view the Western societies as individualistic, and it's basically gonna tear apart our societies. And instead of having this connected society where individuality is not a thing, which is gonna honestly take me to my second point, which is government interference. If we're gonna force the government to interfere and to change or force change on society, society is gonna face it with a flashback. Right now, we do have international treaties, we do have regulations and laws, but you can't force them on societies. Education used to be a taboo here in the Middle East, especially in the GCC states. But today, I'm not gonna speak about myself, I'm gonna speak about the majority of ladies here are highly educated. She goes to Georgetown, and I believe they go to Qatar University. And women in the GCC today, they hold, I think, one of the highest percentages for women in higher education. But the thing is that we need to create our own narrative of gender equality, the one that suits our traditional conservative societies, so we can have technically the best of both worlds.
No, and I like what you're just saying right now, because it's funny what our brains also do. And whenever I say our brain, I mean humans, right? This is what humans do. We cherry pick, right? So we had the exact same thing where I come from in terms of attacking a concept by calling it Western, right? Because I come from Eastern Europe. Eastern Europe is not really West, right? We have so many problems. We had wars, you know, so in that sense, we struggle a lot. And we also used to attack certain concepts as Western. But then you look at it, we accepted many other things that are Western that did a lot of damage in our society. We never attacked those. So I'll give you an example of something we accepted, we never questioned it, and it did insane amount of damage. Capitalism. And when I say capitalism, I don't mean that capitalism is wholly bad, but capitalism when it happens in a context without strong rule of law. And that's what happened to us, right? So what we got, when I see a colleague from Bosnia and Herzegovina nodding, what happens is that then you get companies coming, extracting a lot of natural resources, doing a lot of environmental damage, and a couple of individuals get richer. It's not that educational system gets better or that we have better kindergartens or something like that. No. So in that sense, it's interesting how sometimes we discredit some concepts and we call them Western, but some other concepts we accept and nobody asks a question. So I think it's quite interesting, right?
This is why I believe that the needs to be the purpose, the need for change. It's not influence or it's not taking values from other societies. It needs to be the need of this society to change. For example, the women need to get education in order to be better mothers to their kids, to be a better contributor in society. This is why, for example, the GCC society has changed from basically 0 educated women into doctors and lawyers and, you know.
Yeah. Yes, please. And those of you sitting outside, just because you're not in the circle, if you have something to share, please do. You're more than welcome to.
I'll speak in Arabic. So.
And see, you're already so privileged. You can just shuffle between languages. I'm very inspired.
الآن تعقيبا على كل ما ذكر إلى الآن، أول شيء ذكرته كان موضوع الدين والكولتشر، لأنه في حال مناقشة أي مشكلة موجودة في أي مجتمع نحن لازم نسلط الضوء على الأشياء الأساسية التي تلعب دور في تكوين هذا المجتمع. فأنا إذا بدي أحل أي مشكلة ما رح أجي أحكي المرأة ما عندها حقوق وبعدين أتغاضى عن الإيجابيات، بعدين أحكي المرأة ما عندها حقوق ويعني أتنازل عن أمور تانية حتى الرجل ممكن يقدر يعملها. فلما بدنا نوضح شو حقوق المرأة اللي إحنا بدنا إياها لازم نفهم وين المشكلة الآن. التعليم حق وليس شيء نحن نطلبه، هو حق ما لازم أصلا نناقش عليه، حتى إن كان جبنا الشريعة وحطيناها فهي توافق هذا الحق. لما أنا أتكلم على مجتمع أو دين وهو دين إسلامي الذي يعني يغطي أغلب المنطقة الإسلامية رغم وجود الاختلاف، ولكن نحن عنا تشريعات وقوانين مثالية لأي مجتمع، ما في داعي إحنا نحاول نفكر ونبحث عن ما يغطيها أو ما يحسن منها من المجتمعات الغربية وغيرها. لما أنا بدي أحكي عن أي مجتمع غربي تطور، هذا لا يعني إنه هم في أفضل مرحلة، لأنه القوي دائما هو من يسلط الضوء على الإيجابيات اللي في مجتمعه. القوي من يحكم ويكتب التاريخ. الآن الدول الغربية يعبر عنها أنها دول قوية، فهي من تكتب المرأة والمرأة ولا مرأة، ولكن هم ليسوا في أفضل حال. نحن ما لازم ناخذ كل شيء مثالي مثل ما هم بيعملوه ويطبقوه ونجيبه لعنا، لأنه في إحنا عنا أشياء أفضل بكتير. لازم إحنا نفهم وين المشكلة الأساسية، نعرف شو اللي يتماثل مع مجتمعنا مع ديننا ونكمل عليه. التعليم، الطبابة، الأمور هاي هي حق من أساس أي إنسان إن كان مرأة ولا رجل. الآن إحنا ما لازم نناقش هذا الموضوع. وجرائم الشرف، جرائم شو الآخر، الرفض وغيرها هو شيء مرفوض وغير قابل للنقاش أصلا. يعني إحنا الآن لا ندرج هذه المواضيع تحت حقوق المرأة أو عدمها أو المساواة وغيرها، هذا يعني حق ورفض تام. فلما إحنا بدنا نحكي عن نطالب بحقوق المرأة لازم نوضح ما هو الحق وندافع عنه ونشوف إيش لازمنا في هذا المجتمع عشان نحن نبرز هذا الشيء ونبرز ما ينقصها ونبرز ما المشكلات الموجودة في هذا المجتمع. بعدين وقتها بنشتغل على الموضوع، بس إذا ما حددنا المشكلة وين ما حنعرف نحلها أصلا.
I just want to begin by saying that over the history, we have learned that rights are taken, they're not given. And as a public policy student, I just want to say we have two kind of policies. We have homegrown policies and we have adopted policies. I feel like the issue here is that we want to adopt the westernized framework of gender equality, and we want to adopt it here in the Gulf countries or Arab countries. That's not going to work. That's what consultant did over the past 10, 20 years, and we have seen with our own eyes that it has failed massively. So what we have to do, and what Qatar has been doing successfully, alhamdulillah, is that they were growing policies. They were addressing issues, yes, but the policies are homegrown to fit culture, religion, people, customs, traditions. We hold customs and traditions dear to our heart. That's something we're proud of. We're not ashamed of that. But we have to make sure that the policy fit the needs of the people today, not 20 years ago, but also cater to traditions and customs and religion and culture, and the list go on and on. Yeah.
And I love the fact that you're saying this. The microphone will come here to you, gentlemen. One of the things that I love about what you're saying is because this is kind of a little bit the problem with globalization, right? Is that we look at each other and then we kind of feel bad about things, or we feel a bit envious about what other people have. And I think that you just nailed it. I think copy-paste doesn't work. It's never supposed to work. And it can create more problems than not. But at the same time, I would like you to pause a little bit on this idea that in the West, gender equality is, kind of like, we did it, very good. Because you know that it's not the case, right? You know that in the last couple of years, they had massive scandals like Me Too, massive campaigns pointing to not just gender inequality, but massive harassment issues. And another thing is that I think one of the things we tend to underestimate, and I'm a big proponent of decolonizing our minds, which is a question of knowing, that you get to tell a story about yourself, and not that you tell a story about what somebody else said about you, and then you're kind of like trying to filter it out. And one of the key things for me with this is realizing that the Western world, and if we're going to look at the West through exclusively United States of America, let's face it, they're not doing well. They're incredibly divided. They're divided on values, they're divided on how they see their present as well as their future. And I think that this is something that we should look at as a warning. Because I think that what you said, we need to adapt and we need to define what it is for us. I think this is the key. Because otherwise what you end up is with a lot of things lost in translation and a lot of this feeling of comparison, which is actually doesn't work. Because the settings are different, the systems are different, the cultures are different. And then, you're just trying to put like a circle into a box. And then this is something that is not really good.
Arabic.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the heads up.
هلا هو ممكن يكون شيء شوي غريب، بس أنا بالنسبة إلي حسيت هي مو بس على الجندر إكواليتي، على كتير مواضيع تانية جديدة بتدخل على المجتمع. إنه من أكثر المشاكل اللي عم بتصير إنه هي الموضوع عم بيصير ترند إلى حد ما، فلما عم بيصير ترند عم بيصير أي شخص مفرد بشكل عشوائي عم بيصير هو مقتنع إنه أنا بدي أغير المجتمع كلياته، هي مثل ما حكينا بالأول هي برا الدائرة تبعه، فبصير كل شخص مفرد عم بيبلش إنه أنا بدي أغير كل المجتمع، وبصير هذا الموضوع ينتشر كتير بلا ما يصير في تجهيز حقيقي، يعني بلا ما يكون في مبادرة مدروسة. بيكون أي واحد بيعمل صفحة على السوشيال ميديا وبيبلش ينزل عليها كتير، فهذا الشيء عم بيخلق شغلتين. أول شيء عم بيخلي الموضوع لأنه صار ترند عم ينتشر كتير ومن كتير أشخاص بجزء ما لهم دخل بهذا المجال كتير أو ما كتير واعيين هن شو عم يعملوا، فبصير شوي المجتمع بحس عنده صار نفور من مثل أي شيء متكرر، بضل تسمع عنده أخبار بيمل عنه لأنه عم بيكون كله مكررة، يعني بيكون صارت الشغلة ترند فصار الكل بده يركب هاي الموجة، فألف واحد نزل نفس البوست، فأنا بالآخر حصير أمل وحس إنه هذا الموضوع ما بقى كتير مهم. والشغلة الثانية اللي هي كانت كتير مهمة انه عم بيصير هذا الشيء كنوع من الفرض على المجتمع بلا ما نجهز المجتمع عن جد. يعني انا عم اصير اقول لك انت بدك تساوي بين الرجل والمراه، بلا ما فهمك انا ليش هذا الشيء هو مهم، بلا ما فهم هذا المجتمع ليش هذا الشيء مهم، بلا ما اخلي المجتمع يستوعب عن جد ليش هي الفكره هي، يعني خليه اول شيء يتقبلها، لانه هي مثل ما انحكى كثير بمجتمعاتنا متأصل الفكرة. يعني هي حتى مو بس جندر كواليتي، أي شيء ثاني، حرية التعبير عن رأي، كثير أفكار ثانية، إنه هي هذا الشيء ما موجود بمجتمعاتنا، ما كان موجود عند أهالينا، ما موجود عند أجدادنا، ما موجود عند كثير من أصدقائنا. فأنا عم أنزل إنه لا، أنا بكرة بدي إياك تخلي لي كل حقوقي موجودة، أنا بكرة بدي أخليك كل هي. فأنا بشكل أوتوماتيكي أي شخص عنده ضد هي الفكرة أو ما يعني هو بجوز يكون شخص، يعني بهي الاستراتيجية نحن شو عم يصير؟ نحن في اشخاص انهم كثير متطرفين وضد هي الفكرة، هدول حيضلوا ضد الفكرة، حتى لو نحن حاولنا نجهزهم، حاولنا نستوعبهم، حاولنا ما هناك، حيضلوا ضد الفكرة. فهن بالعالمين نحن خسرانين هدول الاشخاص. بس في العالم اللي هنن نص نص، اللي هنن ممكن يفكروا بهي الفكرة، نحن ما عم نعطيهم هذا المجال، نحن عم نجي نقول لهم بدكم تعملوا هيك مثل ما نحن بدنا. فهذا الشيء عم يخلينا نخسرهم كمان، لانه ما في لانه هذا الشيء صار ترند، ما في مبادره واضحه مدروسه نحن نخلي هدول نثقفهم بالاول، نخليهم نغير طريقه تفكيرهم شوي شوي، بعدين نبلش نطرح الامور بالتدريج عليهم. لا عم نفرضها عليهم لهي الامور، عم نقول لك اذا انت ما بتعمل هيك فانت عدوي، اذا ما بتعمل هيك انت ضدي. فصار بشكل اساسي الرجال مثلا بهي المجتمعات او اي شخص، حتى في نساء كمان كتير، انه لا انا ما هعمل هيك، انا ان صرتوا انتم عم تهاجموني فانا حدافع عن حالي، انا ضد هذا الشيء. فانا صرت من شخص رمادي الى حد ما الى شخص كمان ضد هدول الاشياء. فهذا الشيء عم بيخلي الفكره شوي تقل. فيعني بحس انه انتشار الفكره ضر فيه اكثر ما هو نفع، لانه ما كان شيء مدروس، فصار عشوائي كتير، فعمل هو الكيوس تبع المجتمع كلياته.
Just a small comment, maybe circling back to what we began with. So basically, when we talk about gender equality, what I said was it's all about justice. It's not about equality. And that's when we come back to the government. I know that I'm talking about the government a lot, but let's be frank for a second. Like, for example, the oldest one here as well, like 25, 26, 27, let's say 30. And we're all aware of what's happening. We're all aware of what the issues are, and we're all aware of what the status quo is and what we would love to be. And even you, when you stated the positive impact that Qatar did, you gave the applause to the country. The country equals the government. The government did something right. The government was aware enough to put some regulations, to put something that was positive to the public. And I'm pretty much sure, like when they first began, maybe other countries surrounding them were like not fully on board, and maybe the public itself. But at the same time, they did it, they took action, and people followed. Why? Because they saw the positive impact. That's what I'm saying, because like when we talk about our government, for example, I come from Jordan. In Jordan, the word harassment is not even in the regulations. It's not even in the law itself. Neither when it comes to like, what is it called? جرائم إلكترونية. Cyber crimes, and like when it comes to even street harassments, it's not even like a crime to begin with in like the Jordanian law. Exactly, it's not addressed. And also when we try to address it in a policy paper, like the government itself, like they shut us down. So that's why I'm saying it's all about the government, because even like following up on what you said, you talked about like awareness, you talked about giving it like step by step, and that only happens when you get introduced to it in an early age. It's not about like being 50 years old and suddenly you hear about these concepts. It's about like actually growing with it. It's actually knowing about it. It's actually being familiarized with it and being allowed to talk about it, being allowed to have a thought about it. That's why I'm a big fan of like putting it on the government, because it is on the government. The government holds the curriculum. The government holds the regulations. The government holds the change. The government holds the accountability. The government holds like the even like when we talk about like seatbelts and accidents, car accidents, basically in Jordan, people never put a seatbelt. Till we started to put a 50 GODs charge for the first time, and then 500 GOD charge for the third time. And now everyone, because even before starting the car, they put their seatbelts. Okay. That's how it comes to the government.
Yeah, and yet I don't see government in this room.
Exactly. Decision makers are all like 60 years old, 70 years old.
That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. I believe that as a result of this conversation, every single one of us is going to leave with at least one idea in their mind. What you just did, whilst I agree with everything, is still focusing on the circle of concern. This is what our minds do. They go to the elements that we do not control. And yet every single one of us continuously ignores the things that you can influence. Because you talk to people, maybe you become a teacher, maybe you work in a company and then you try to maybe implement a little, kind of push an initiative. Every single one of those steps matter. But we have a tendency to, where I come from, it's a sport, to sit and to go like, oh, the government. No, really, it's like, it makes you feel good, right? Because they're the ones to blame, and I'm, I don't have to do anything. So I would like to ask the final question, and you're gonna get a chance to get the microphone as well. But my final question, and everybody is going to answer if that's okay. What is something that every single one of us, what is something you yourself can do in order to improve the state of gender equality in your environment? And I'm going to start myself, okay? One of the things that I want to do and that I've been trying to do is whenever talking about gender equality, and I talk a lot about these topics, is to make sure that we don't talk about it only in terms of women's rights, because we are ignoring the fact that we're all in it together. So women not having equality hurts men, but also currently the fact that men are, at least in the West, research shows, they're dropping behind in academic studies, they're not succeeding in university as well as women. This all affects all of us. So for me, one of the things that I can do is when I talk about this topic, to make sure that we talk about everybody. That's something I can do.
To be honest, I really want to say this, and I know that this is really delusional and probably it's not very accurate to our life, but no, because I think I need a disclaimer. If you dislike the government so much, then become the government.
Elections, that's what I was going to say.
I know, I know that there's a bigger problem holding us from actually becoming the government, which is we're not democratic. I know, but like when we talk about, we really like to talk shit about politicians. Yeah, we really like to talk shit about politicians. But why don't we ourselves become the politicians? Why don't we become policy makers? And then we actually get to directly change the state of things that we are deeply concerned in. I know that this is delusional. I know that this may not be very easy to apply here, especially in our region. But I really think that we should be working on this. Thank you.
That's okay. So one sentence, what is something that you can do to advance gender equality in your environment? So just one sentence. Please pass the mic.
ممكن يكون يعني من السلوكيات اليومية اللي ممكن بيومنا يعني عشان نعزز المساواة عن طريق مثلا يعني أحد الأشياء اللي هو المزاح اللي يكون على تقليل أو السخرية بشأن مثلا السخرية تطلع من النساء على الرجال أو من الرجال على النساء، وممكن هذا السلوك اليومي يعزز من المساواة بين الجنسين.
I'll speak in Arabic. هلا بالنسبة للمساواة فنحن بنقول إنه نحن بدنا نعطي الحقوق متساوية للرجال وللنساء.
Just a second, not we need to. What is something you would do to improve this topic in your country?
تمام، فهو أنا حوصل للفكرة إنه أنا بشوف إنه نحن صار في عنا أدلجة للمصطلح، بحيث إنه أنا بقول مثلا حق المرأة في العمل، تمام؟ فمندافع عنه، بس لما منلاقي مرأة لا تعمل فنحن ننظر إلها نظرة شفقة انه انت عن جد ما بتشتغلي. فانا بحب اني انا اكون عم موازن بين الاثنين، انه هي نحن بدنا ندافع عن حقها بالعمل، بس هي ما اشتغلت كتير عادي. نحن صار في عنا هي النظره المضاده. اذا هي مثلا اختارت انه تتزوج بعمر صغير، فهي مثل كانه يعني تم ظلمها، بس لا، هي ما تم ظلمها. فطالما نحن عم ندافع عن المساواه، فما بدنا نكون عم نتأدلج او عم نروح بس للكفه يلي هي ما موجوده ونخليها ترجح. فانا كشخص دائما بحب اني ضوي على يعني مثل الجانب المظلم اللي عم بيصير من هذا الموضوع.
So you will not judge.
Yes.
Thank you. Perfect. Thank you. So just one sentence.
So I will be the last.
You would rather not. Okay. Thank you. Okay. One sentence.
أنا ممكن أعزز هالشيء في أبنائي في تربيتهم، فبدل ما أنقل لهم
Yes.
أفكاري اللي أنا يعني تربيت عليها، راح أعطيهم الحرية أنهم يفكرون في الموضوع هذا بدون أي إجبار.
Perfect. Thank you.
For me personally, one thing I can do is to keep talking, keep shedding the light on it. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I would say that we should communicate more.
Yes.
We need to talk more because I feel
Yes.
we don't talk actually about this topic very often.
Thank you.
And that's it.
أنا في الحقيقة أوافق الأخت اللي في نقطتها هذه للأمانة، وهذه كانت النقطة اللي أنا راح أتحدث فيها، لأني رأيت كثير يعني من النساء اللي مثلا يتعلمون، مثلا تكون مهندسة يعني عندها تعليم عالي، ولكن تفضل أنها تقعد في البيت ما تبي تشتغل. فتلاقي المجتمع يضع عليها ضغط مجتمعي أن أنت مهندسة، أنت مثلا معلمة، ليش ما تطلعين تشتغلين؟ ليش تقعدين في البيت؟ يكون ضغط مجتمعي. فأنا أرى أن إحنا المفروض ما نضغط عليهم. إذا هم يبون يشتغلون يشتغلون، إذا ما يبون خلاص على راحتها.
I'm an academic, so I think the best way for me to make a difference is influencing my students.
So your circle of influence is already quite big. Yeah.
Something that I would do is change the stereotypical perceptions in the family environment about the responsibilities and duties that a man should have and a woman should have. So when the man is not present, or like when the parents pass away or something, the woman is, like, by law and by culture, like in some places, is still dependent on the male factor to help her in, like, get papers, put her kids into schools or universities. So I see that we have to raise awareness in the families' responsibility, like in families, to put certain responsibilities on the men and women, and also in the government. Okay, I mean, like if
Family.
I become like a member in the government or something, I would change that. Because, like, at least, for example, when I have to go home and or travel home and my parents are not with me, I cannot travel or go without my parents being present. Even if I have an official letter, I would still face difficulties. So we need to, that's what I think we need to change. Yes.
Thank you so much.
I think everyone keeps going back to the government because the laws in some of these places are really problematic. In an ideal situation, I ideally would have been able to be part of community activism to pressure the government to change the laws. Unfortunately, that's not the ideal situation that I'm in. So I think what I would like to do personally is step outside my comfort zone and have difficult conversations, especially with men who are not within my echo chamber. I think my problem is I have these conversations with people who agree with me, and every time I have a conversation with someone who doesn't agree with me, it's very difficult for me. So I think maybe I'll try and have those conversations.
Gentle baby steps. Yes.
I'll talk in Arabic.
Okay. Thank you.
أنا أرى أنه يجب علينا نشر والتوعية عن الموضوع مع وضع المفاهيم بشكلها الصحيح، لأني أرى بعض من الأشخاص الذين يتحدثون عن هذا الموضوع، إن كان من الرجال أو من النساء، فإنهم يتحدثون عن الموضوع من خلفية أو من وجهة نظر غير صحيحة ولا ترتبط بالموضوع وبمفاهيم خاطئة. فيجب علينا تفهيمهم المفاهيم الصحيحة المتعلقة بالمواضيع، بحيث أننا إذا دخلنا في محادثة كل منا يكون له الرأي المنطقي والرأي الموافق للموضوع.
Thank you.
I just want to add something really quick, and then I would answer your question. First of all, we should really look at the principle gender equality had come from the Quran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has stated that يا أيها الناس لقد خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى. But the gender equality principle is in the world from like 1,000 years ago. And in our region, as one of the colleagues has stated, is that we do have the principles of gender equality influence from the Western side. So what would I do is that not play around the principles, but I would share awareness in our society that we should make our own principles when it comes to gender equality. Because as have been stated in the panel discussion, and men as well are facing some sort of racism, or men as well have sort of lack when it comes to equality as well.
Thank you.
In Arabic. مسؤوليتي أنا اتجاه هذه النقطة وهذا الموضوع بما أني أنا أصلاً أدرب الأطفال على المناظرات which is يعني أثر على شريحة جداً مهمة في المجتمع أني أنا يعني أعلمهم أن أساس كل المواضيع في الحياة أن إحنا نفهم أن إحنا مختلفين we are different يعني إحنا مختلفين تماماً بالتفكير بالشخصية بالبيئة كل شيء مختلفين فيه فلازم نستوعب هذه النقطة لأن لو بضرب مثال على سبيل المثال لو بنقول إحنا أصلاً بالأسرة نفسها كل أسرة مختلفة عن الثانية في طريقة تربيتهم للأبناء للمساواة بين الأبناء من الممكن أن في أسرة يعني طريقة تربيتهم للأبناء قد تكون ظالمة عند أسرة أخرى والعكس صحيح يعني الأساس أصلاً ينبني من الأسرة إحنا إذا عرفنا أن إحنا نقدر نعلم أطفالنا أن إحنا مختلفين إذن نحن مختلفين في كل رؤية في رؤيتنا لكل المواضيع في هذه الحياة وخاصة هذا الموضوع المهم وبس.
And there's beauty in difference as well.
إعداد المرأة بشكل أساسي لأنه تكون قادرة على الموازنة بين عملها ورعاية أسرتها بالذات بالنسبة للمرأة اللي اعتبرت الموضوع مثل ركبة موجة لتتهرب من مسؤوليتها كعائلة فبنرجع بالأخير إنه الموضوع عدل يعني مجرد المساواة فهون دخلنا
So you would train women?
Yes.
That's what you would do. That's your contribution. Thank you. Remember what you would do.
أنا بحس إنه أنا بأثر على شريحة كبيرة من المراهقين بمجتمعي يعني بالسنين الماضية دربت أكثر من 200 طالب بالمراهقة بالفترة اللي أنا مآمن فيها إنه هي فترة الواحد بيزرع فيها الأفكار براسه ندربهم على مناظرة مهارات حياة أو أي شيء تاني بحس إنه يعني مواضيع تانية نحن عملنا هذا الشيء بس بالنسبة لجندر إيكواليتي ممكن نعمل جلسة مثل هيك نتناقش فيها نشوف أفكار العالم نتناقش فيها بكتير إيه ولا مع مجموعة من المراهقين هن عن جد وصلوا على مرحلة إنه إنه هن بيوثقوا فيني لحد ما بيتأثروا فيني إلى حد ما بس الشيء اللي أنا مهم إنه أنا كإياس حأعمله ما حأرضى إنه ما ينعمل إنه أنا ما حأخبرهم إنه أنتوا لازم تكونوا هيك أنتوا لازم تدافعوا عن الجندر إيكواليتي أنتوا لازم ما بعرف شو أنا حأخبرهم هذا الشيء وحورجيهم كيف المجتمع عم بيكون عنا حورجيهم اسمع أفكار كل واحد ممكن بآخر يعني بعد جلسة الحوار كلياتها ممكن نعمل ديبيت بين فريق مع الجندر إيكواليتي وفريق الجندر إيكواليتي أو بأي موشن معينة بشيء معين عن الجندر إيكواليتي نعمل ديبيت بيناتهم بالآخر بعد نحن ما تناقشنا بين بعض وشافوا ديبيت فهن كل واحد حيعرفوا بشو إذا هو عن جد هذا الشيء فيه يأثر فيه ولا لا هو مهم بالنسبة له ولا لا بس ما حأقبل على حالي إني أفرض شيء على شخص معين إنه أنت لازم تعمل هيك أو هذا هو الصح أو هذا الغلط لأنه بآمن إنه ما في شيء صح وشيء غلط بالحياة كلها.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Okay, so for me, I will try to influence everyone around me. My brother, my sister, my family. When I see my dad acts in a bad way to me, I'll tell him that's not true to do that. Even he is my dad because that's what he taught me to do. When I see my mom do something like is incorrect, I will tell her, don't do that because that's not fair. My sister and my brother, even my friends, female or male, in university, I tell everyone that what you did, it's wrong, or that should not be only wrong. It should be, I didn't get it, how you want to do. I see it in that way, so you should understand my point of view.
Okay.
So 1, communicating. 2, influencing.
Absolutely. I would just advise you to do it very gently. No, simply because people do not respond well to criticism. So if you do it gently, with kindness, and with an invitation, they will hear you. Invitation. It's something us debaters need to learn. Trust me, I needed to learn it as well.
I think I said it in a very general point, but normally I have a very last point. But normally I think if you try to communicate with people in the right way, they will listen.
Absolutely.
And you should clarify that why you want to say that, because sometimes someone will harm you in a way he don't see it
Unintentionally.
So you should clarify that what you have done to me that affected me in a bad way, especially men around us now. They don't get why we do this. They don't.
Absolutely.
Get, yeah. So that's why.
Yes. So there is this element also that's called principle of charity. When somebody does something or says something that is maybe hurtful, let's assume that maybe they didn't mean to be, mean. Let's tell them and, share with them. So thank you.
For me personally, I would say start with my own mindset, because I think sometimes I mistake this thing as a men versus women thing, and we point a lot of fingers. Oh, it's your fault. Oh, it's the woman's fault. And so I think we need to look at it as a thing where we're both working towards the same goal, and maybe engage in more dialogue with, for example, as a woman, we usually talk about this stuff with other women, people who agree with us, and men talk about it with other men, regardless of whether they agree or not. And so I think we as women also need to be talking about this with other men as well. So.
Thank you.
Okay. Personally, I think I come from an environment that has a kind of big margin of freedom and so on. But sometimes I am kind of forced to have these hard or tough conversations that Tasneem talked about. And I think that most of the people in my environment that I have these discussions with come from a fear of the a fear of gender equality from a religious point of view. And that's why I feel like what I can do personally is to educate myself more on how my religion approaches these topics, because a lot of the times I really don't have the answers. I don't have the historical facts. I don't have the verses or hadiths and so on that can actually prove my points about gender equality. And I think I need to have these things because that's to be able to speak the language that they are speaking in.
Yeah. And it's also a question of what we heard earlier about adapting things, translating them in such a way that they're easily understood here.
So what I'm doing and what I'll continue
Running
doing.
for government.
Yeah. No, it's actually more about elections. I never elected in my life because I was never agreeing on the list. So basically it was always a white paper. So maybe to be more responsible in my choice. That's the only thing I can control. But also QPR reports, policy papers, shadow reports, and keep sneaking into decision makers' meetings and just raise the tough questions.
Thank you so much. I want to ask if there is any people from the outside, if they want to share. There's one person here and the microphone. Okay, I'll get it there. Could you please be so kind there and get
سأتحدث باللغة العربية ربما. طيب أنا لدي سؤال أولا إذا أمكن. السؤال الأول: ماذا تقصدون بالمساواة؟ gender equality. ماذا تقصدون بالضبط في المساواة في أي فكرة؟ السؤال الثاني: لماذا تريدون المساواة؟ وبعدها سأتكلم.
So you walked in a bit late, so we cannot open this discussion. We already talked about it in the beginning, right? So right now I'm only asking a question if there's anything that you yourself can do to do something about this topic. You yourself personally, that's the only question. Sorry.
طيب أنا ربما لا أقوم بأي شيء لأن في النهاية ربما أنا لم أفهم فكرة المساواة. أعتقد بأنني قد أتيت متأخرا، وهذا ربما سيجعلني لا أستطيع التجاوب بشكل جيد معكم في هذا الموضوع، ولكن أعتقد بأن فكرة المساواة بذاتها تحتاج إلى نقاش، لأن المساواة أنا أرى فيه ظلم أكثر للمرأة أكثر من كونه قياما للعدل. فيعني مثلا أن نساوي بين الطرفين فربما سيسبب مشكل. إذن أعتقد بأنني أتيت متأخرا، لهذا سأفضل. طيب.
So it's not just injustice against women, it's also against men. It's about everybody. Okay, please.
Yeah, thank you very much to giving me this opportunity. According what I realize, and first the term gender equality exactly for different societies, the term exactly is not clear for the different society in the different contexts. According to my context in Darfur, I think I will contribute just through the awareness for the principles, and at the same time awareness through the Islamic feminisms that will contribute exactly according to my context. And even we cannot give awareness without this institution, because the awareness through the institution and the strong policy that can contribute to the society and so on. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And this is the final comment. Yes, and we will be wrapping up soon.
Thank you. From what I've seen today, from what I heard today, like here in this discussion, is that we have a problem with reconciling the approach to the gender equality with our religion, with our traditions, and etc.
So what would you do
what
about
I would do
it?
with that, since I'm a debater, researcher, student, what I can do is try to reconcile the approach to my religion, to the religions that I can see in my country, to reconcile those with the approach of gender equality in my own community in Bosnia. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much. I want to thank everybody for taking part in this dialogue. And here comes kind of the final takeaway. Dialogue is not debate. In dialogue, there is no conclusion. There is no solution. There's only more questions, possibly, right? But for me, the one invitation that I have for you is talk more to people, get a diverse group of people to sit together. 5 people is enough, but the more diverse, the better. Men, women, young, old. And just open up a conversation on a topic. We don't talk enough in society, and when we don't talk, there is silence, and the thing that grows in silence is fear and assumptions. You don't even have to say anything, I already know what she thinks. No, I don't. We need to invite each other, to talk to each other. Now, one of the things that I would like to share with you is that some of these cards that we've used, this material, there is cards, there is ground rules for dialogue, so just a little bit about listening to each other and how to do it. And there is a very short guide, just 40 pages, and all of this is available on a website. You can take some of those cards there, they're by the water, so you can grab it for yourself if you need it. I would like to invite, if anybody wishes to use this with your students, I'm happy to send you, to make a copy of it's a Canva file. So you can translate it to Arabic, and you can adapt it to your context, change the questions, change the definitions if you wish to. The whole idea is that these topics can be adapted to anything, but you will see that our concerns, our problems around the world are very much similar. From my work in Libya, it was very funny. At some point, there was a lot of conversations in the language I didn't understand, and then I heard a lot of people talk about mushkila. So we have a lot of very similar mushkilas in the world, and I would just like to invite you to simply get society talking, get people talking. We are not each other's enemies. Men and women are not enemies. We are all in it together. Thank you, everybody. And thank you to the interpretation team. You are amazing.